Opportunity to come together in this big space as part of the New Story Summit. And we are also connected to the world community, so we can wave to them. So here we go. And I have the honor to be part of the summit itself, and I really just want to make you aware that you tap into a very creative, responsive, and heartwarming field and I can highly recommend, if you haven't watched the streaming, to actually do that, even though it might not be your media and you're not sure and things. I would recommend you find people and watch it together and take it from there, because it's about a new story and a new truth which we as humanity are looking for. And people who have come and gathered for the summit, and all of us do, carry pieces of the answer. So I just want to make you aware so that you're entering a full hall, and also to welcome you. And I would like to invite you first, one of you who feels drawn. And so we can just have a moment of silence and then see if one of you feels drawn to light the candle with a blessing. So just take a moment and reconnect and gather and just feel if your heart is beating. So then I invite you down to light the candle and say a blessing. Blessing.
Blessings on this light. Blessings on all the lights within you and with the people watching us, being part of this. Blessings on this space.
Thanks, Mary. So to begin with, we have Susie Prater singing a song. And after Susie, there will be Drew reciting a poem, and then I will introduce Satish.
So lovely to be invited to share a song with you all. This was written by my dear father, who flew off with the angels on Christmas Eve and is just everywhere. Yeah, really lovely. It's called The Ripples of Time. The ripples of time unfold, the wondrous crown I hold in the secret of my heart. The ripples turn to gold. The ripples turn to gold. Bright lady of the flowers, your weaving brings music to the hours. turns to rain. Everything changes and all things must die, and all things must live again. Yes, all things must live again. Yes, all things must live again. Blessings on the new story.
Let's meet at the confluence where you flow into me and one breath swirls between our lungs. Let's meet at the confluence where you flow into me and one breath swirls between our lungs. For one instant to dwell in the presence of the galaxies. For one instant to live in the truth of the heart. The poet says this entire traveling cosmos is the secret one, slowly growing a body. Two eagles are mating, clasping each other's claws and turning cartwheels in the sky. Grasses are blooming, grandfathers dying, consciousness blinking on and off. All of this is happening at once. All of this vibrating into existence out of nothingness. Every particle foaming into existence, transcribing the ineffable. Every particle foaming into existence, transcribing the ineffable. Arising and passing away. Arising and passing away. 23 trillion times per second. When Buddha saw that, he smiled. 16 million tons of rain are falling every second on the planet. An ocean perpetually falling, and every drop is your body. Every motion, every feather, every thought is your body. Time is your body. And the infinite, curled inside like invisible rainbows folded into light. Every word of every tongue is love, telling a story to her own ears. Every word of every tongue is love, telling a story to her own ears. Let our lives be incense, burning like a hymn to the sacred body of the universe. My religion is rain. My religion is stone. My religion reveals itself to me in sweaty epiphanies. Every leaf, every river, every animal, your body. Every creature trapped in the gears of corporate nightmares. Every species made extinct was once your body. 10 million people are dreaming that they're flying. Junipers and violets are blossoming, stars exploding and being born. God is having deja vu. I am one elaborate crush. We cry petals as the void is singing. We cry petals as the void is singing. You are the dark that holds the stars in intimate distance, that spun the whirling, whirling world into existence. Let's meet at the confluence where you flow into me and one breath swirls between our lungs.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Drew, for getting this event started so well. It's a sort of tester of this New Story Summit. And what your poem says is beautiful. Nature is our religion. Nature is our God. In Hindu tradition, we have no idea of a personal God. God is not a person. God is existence. Every atom, every blade of grass, every creature is filled with divine. And so your poem represents that beautiful sentiment. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be speaking to Findhorn community. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I came to Findhorn about 30 years ago, and I fell in love. And I think Findhorn also fell in love with me. But I did not marry Findhorn. I kept Findhorn as my beloved. I married Schumacher College. So I have to work and live there. When you marry, you have to live with the person you marry with. But this long-distance love affair continues. What you are doing here is absolutely wonderful. A great example. 52 years, this community is growing, flourishing, blooming, thriving. It's a great pleasure and joy for me to see that and witness that. Now, this is a new story summit. And there are many, many new stories. There is no one story. But the essence of this new story for me is that we are moving from the idea of disconnection, separation, to reunion, to connection. Last evening, I did a short meditation, and I explained the meaning of the mudra, the meditation posture, in which we connect the index finger with the thumb. And we make a mandala with our two thumb and finger, two fingers of the hand. Mandala. And I said, the new story is in this mandala. Everything is connected and related as the index finger and the thumb are connected. There was a great philosopher, writer, thinker, ecologist, Gregory Bateson. And I had honor of meeting him. And he said, Satish, how many fingers do you have in your hand? I said, what's that question? Of course, 5 fingers. He said, no. You don't have 5 fingers. You have 4 relationships. That's a new story. We are all related as the index finger and the thumb are related in our meditation. And this mandala represents the cosmos. The sun is round, and that's in this mandala, symbolic. And the moon and the earth and ourselves and the trees and the animals, whatever there is, that is all in this mandala. This is the new story of reconnection. We are all related. The old story of old paradigm, the scientific, technological, materialistic paradigm, materialistic story, is story that we are all separate. We are not part of each other. This individualism. There is no such thing as society. The British Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher, said, there is no such thing as society. There is no community. We are all individuals. That's the old paradigm, old story. So the new story is of this reunion of connection. And for me especially, I'm an earth pilgrim. And for me, new story is story to be a pilgrim. Even in our ancient metaphoric stories, we have metaphors of a warrior. Even Bhagavad Gita, which is my beloved book, is a wonderful book of teachings, of spirituality, of non-violence, of compassion, of yoga, of bhakti, devotion. All those things are wonderful. But the metaphor of Bhagavad Gita is that of a warrior. I feel that that metaphor doesn't suit me and doesn't suit to our time. Because a warrior has a kind of macho connotation. Not everybody can be a warrior, it seems. You have to be strong. So I would like to move away from the metaphor of warrior. The another metaphor, which is also in our ancient mythology and stories, and even my beloved writer Joseph Campbell promoted it, and that's a metaphor of a hero. Many, many stories are filled with heroic journeys. That is also very rare quality. That is also very macho quality of a hero. And when you talk about heroine, that's something in a film, lying by the beach, falling in love. So this metaphor of hero is also, to me, a bit passé. So my new metaphor for a new story, and that's my personal story, is story of a pilgrim. You don't have to be a man to be a pilgrim. You don't have to be a strong person to be. Life is a pilgrimage. We are all pilgrims of life. And we are always moving. What is a pilgrim? Who is a pilgrim? Of course, we also make pilgrimage to Jerusalem or to Santiago de Compostela, or even many people come to make pilgrimage to Findhorn. Or in India, we make pilgrimage to Mount Kailash or the river Ganges, holy places. They are fine. I have done some of those pilgrimages. And I might tell a little bit of story of my pilgrimage as well. But to me, to be a pilgrim is to be free of conditioning, free of fixedness, free of rigidity. Because if you have fixed plans, you become a tourist. A tourist goes with all itinerary fixed. If it is Tuesday, it must be Paris. If it's a Thursday, it must be Tokyo. And Holiday Inn everywhere. And you go with Lonely Planet guide with you. And your taxis and your guides are booked. And you come home and say, I'm glad to be home. You don't enjoy. Because you are going as a tourist with expectations. The bondage, the burden of expectations and fixed plans, rigid, dogmatic. Religious pilgrims can be very dogmatic, very fixed. This is, I believe, this is the truth. A pilgrim is free of all bondage. all burdens, all attachments, all expectations. Just move every moment and see what comes. And whatever comes, you embrace. And the difficulties do come. Problems do come. Because you don't know where you are going to stay the night. You don't know where your food is coming from. And you, as a pilgrim, welcome the difficulties. Welcome the problems. Welcome the hardships. That is the way a pilgrim grows, develops resilience and inner strength. And we are all capable of being a pilgrim of that kind. Men, women, old, young, children, sick, handicapped, educated, uneducated, farmer, workman, whoever you are, intellectual, scientist, whoever you are, if you are free with free spirit, I don't care so much about free will. A pilgrim is free of free will. But a pilgrim has free spirit. And so if we can be a pilgrim of life, then I think that we are creating a new story, moving away from the warriorship and the fighting and the battles and heroic journeys, but just move through life lightly, light-footed, light touch. Leave not much traces of your footprints even. And I learned that metaphor and that realization when I went on actual physical pilgrimage for peace. And you will be surprised, some of you who have read my book perhaps not be surprised, but you will be surprised that the inspiration for my pilgrimage came not from Bhagavad Gita, not from the Bible, not from some great religious teacher or an Indian sage, but an atheist, a scientist, a mathematician, a European, an English person. And that was Bertrand Russell. That is the beauty of being a pilgrim. That your inspiration is not fixed, that it has to come from some great religious text or some great guru, great master, great sage. It can come from anywhere. And my inspiration came when one day I was sitting in a cafe in Bangalore and I read this piece of news that Bertrand Russell in London is protesting against the nuclear weapons and is arrested, put in jail. And when I read this, I said to my friend who was with me in this cafe, that look, read this news. He's a man of 90, Nobel Prize winning philosopher, going to jail for peace in the world. What are we doing, young men, sitting here drinking coffee? That was the inspiration. And my friend and I talked about it and talked and talked and came to this idea that let us make a pilgrimage for peace. And there are 4 nuclear capitals in the world. Moscow at that time. Moscow, Paris, London, and Washington. Let's join the peace movement of the world. And we went to meet and take blessings from our teacher, Vinoba Bhave, a great Gandhian Indian sage, scholar, philosopher. social reformer, Vinoba Bhave. If you have not heard of him, look it up. Wonderful person. He was my guru. So we went to him and said, we are going to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington for peace. Please bless us. And he looked at the map. Said, how are you going to go there? Which route are you going to go? Which countries? And then he thought for a minute, and that's the mindset of a pilgrim. He was a pilgrim. And he said, I want to give you one piece of advice. You are going as a pilgrims for peace. You go without any money in your pockets. I said, any money? We need sometimes a bit of cup of tea, or make a telephone call, or write a postcard. Not any money? He said, not a penny. Not a penny. Why? Because you are a pilgrim. You are going for peace. Peace begins in trust. Wars begin in fear. If you really want to make a pilgrimage for peace, you have to be peace. Not demonstrate for peace, but demonstrate peace. And how do you be peace? By trusting. Trusting yourself. Trusting people. Trusting the universe. Trusting God. So go without any money in your pockets. That was great advice. And we left all our money behind at the grave of Mahatma Gandhi, and we started walking day after day, 10 miles, 15 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles, 12 miles every day, North India, and came at the border of India and Pakistan. And many of our friends, this is the last day of our walk in India. And we are about to enter a foreign land called Pakistan. And our friends and our colleagues and our family members, they all come to say goodbye and farewell. And one of my very dear friend, my colleague and dear friend, she was called Kranti. Kranti comes to me and says, Satish, aren't you crazy? You are going to Pakistan? It's our enemy country. We had 3 wars between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. And you have no money, you have no food, and you are walking. Fear. And her heart was full of fear. Fear of Muslims. Fear of Pakistanis. Fear of my security. And she brought packets of food. Nice smelling. The Indian spices smell very delightful and delicious. I said, at least you take some food with you, so that while you are looking for some hospitality, you have something to sustain you. And I looked at these packets of food. And I started to think. And I started to think the words of Vinoba. That you have to go with trust in your heart. So I looked at these packets of food and I said to my friend, dear friend, these packets of food are not packets of food. They are packets of mistrust. What am I going to say to my Pakistani host? That I did not know whether you will feed me or not, so I have brought my own food all the way from India. That's not right. Thank you for your thoughts, but I cannot take these with me. I must try. I'm a pilgrim. Whatever happens, Vinoba has given me blessing, my guru. So she was in tears. I said, why are you crying? Give me your hug. Give me your blessings. She said, Satish, this might be our last meeting. You are going through Muslim countries, Christian countries, communist countries, capitalist countries, mountains, deserts, no money, no food, walking. I cannot believe that you will survive. And I said to my friend, something came to me, the spirit of pilgrim. Something came to me. I said, Kranti, if I die while walking for peace, that will be the best kind of death that I can have. Don't worry. And if I don't get food, I will say, this is my opportunity to fast. Good opportunity. And if I don't get shelter to sleep, I'll sleep under the stars. And I'll call it Million-Star Hotel. Now I don't care for 5-star hotel when I can sleep in under Million-Star Hotel. But I'm a pilgrim and I'll go without any money and trust in my heart and see what happens. I'm not thinking of tomorrow. I'm not thinking of next moment. I'm thinking of this present moment. And to my surprise and amazement, as we walked into Pakistan, and I was with my friend, E.P. Menon. So Menon and I walked into Pakistan through the passport control, through the custom control, and somebody standing there saying, are you Mr. Kumar, Mr. Menon, the two Indians who are coming to Pakistan for peace? Wow. Miracles. People say miracles don't happen these days. Miracles can happen if you have no money. Money can be the obstacle, the barrier between you and miracles. I said, we don't know anybody in Pakistan. Here you are. You know our names, and you know we are working for peace and walking for peace. He said, I read about you, and I heard about you. And I said, I'm for peace. All this war between India and Pakistan is total nonsense. So please come to my home. Be my guest. I want to introduce you to my friends. Talk to them about peace. How we can live in harmony between India and Pakistan. Wow. That was the moment, the first moment, the first day, the first hour of our footsteps, our moments in Pakistan. And here is a man. And I said to my friend, this is amazing. If we come here as Indians, we meet Pakistanis. If we come here as Hindus, we meet Muslims. But if we come here as human beings, we meet human beings. So, what is our true identity? Not an Indian, not a Hindu, not an editor, not a writer. All labels for a pilgrim disappear and dissolve. First and foremost, we are members of the earth community and human community. That is our true identity. We are members of the earth community and human community. And with that conviction and experience, we started walking. It's a long story, so I just want to give you just a little flavor. We went through Pakistan, through Afghanistan, through Iran, to the deserts of Iran, walking, through the mountains of Caucasus, through Azerbaijan and Armenia and Georgia and Moscow. In 10 months, we were in Moscow. And we walked through Eastern Europe and Western Europe and came to Paris. And there were many, many days when there was no food and no shelter. And even we faced a gunpoint. And we walked. And we came to England, London, and we met Bertrand Russell. And Bertrand Russell, we had a wonderful time. It's in my book, You Are, Therefore I Am, of my conversation with Bertrand Russell. But Bertrand Russell said that you walked from India. When you wrote to me, I thought, oh, I never see you. I'm 90 years old. You are walking. I never see you. But you have walked fast. I'm still alive. And then he said, but you can't walk to America. You want to go to Washington. You can't walk on water, however great pilgrims you may be. Can I give you some money? Do you need some help? I said, Lord Russell, for 2 years we have not touched money. And we cannot take money now. But if you will be kind enough, generous enough to help us with 2 tickets, we will accept. And so he arranged 2 tickets in a boat called Queen Mary. Luxurious boat. In those days it was in service. And my friend and I sailed across the Atlantic, came to New York, and walked to Washington, D.C., and arrived in Washington after 2.5 years. And by that time, Martin Luther King had delivered, and Drew Dellinger is doing big research on Martin Luther King and his relevance to our time and our ecological movement and cosmological movement. So I'm looking forward to reading his research. So we wrote to Martin Luther King that your wonderful dream speech is so inspiring, and we have walked for peace, and we want to meet you. And we were delighted to receive his reply. He said, yes, come and see me. And so we went, and we saw Martin Luther King. And he said, for me, India and Mahatma Gandhi, they are the examples of nonviolence. I have learned much about nonviolence from Gandhi. And you are Gandhians, Indians coming. This is a great pleasure for me to meet you. But I said, this is our honor to meet you, Dr. King. And he said, nonviolence, I have learned, is not just absence of war or absence of fight. Nonviolence is a way of life. Nonviolence is a way of life. Such words ring in my head still after so many years, his words coming out of his mouth. And so then we were invited to Japan, and we went to Japan and walked from Tokyo to Hiroshima, and then we arrived back. And when we arrived after 2.5 years back by boat from Japan and arrived in Mumbai, which was called Bombay at that time, my friend Kranti came. And she was so happy to see me come back to India alive. So this is just a story to tell you that when you are free of burden of time, and free of burden of rushing somewhere, getting somewhere. I called my book No Destination. Pilgrims have no destination. Every step is our destination. Every moment is our destination. Every moment of life, living in this present moment fully, without any expectation of results, of achievement, of outcome. Sometimes, you know, when you apply for a grant to a foundation, they ask you, what will be the outcome of your project? I say, I haven't even started. How am I going to tell you what is the outcome of the project? And quite often people write some outcomes, but they never achieve those outcomes anyway. So our Western touristic mind is so obsessed with outcome and achievement and results. But a pilgrim's outcome is to be every moment of life and find that joy, even in difficult times, up and down. That's the life, up and down. And find and discover a sense of equanimity. That's to be a pilgrim. So I want this new story of not a hero, not a warrior, not a macho, something special, rare, but everyday life of every person living as life being a gift. Life being a gift. And celebrating this life as the universe celebrates itself. In Drew Dellinger's poem, that universe, and Thomas Berry's work, universe celebrates itself when the cherry blossoms are blossoming on the tree, and apple blossoms are blossoming, and apples are coming on the tree branches, and the roses, and the fruit, and the peacock with its wonderful feathers dancing. What is the purpose? What's the outcome? Who is paying a fee? Nothing. The universe is celebrating itself. So to be a pilgrim is to celebrate life as it is. Every moment is a miracle. That we can walk on this earth is a miracle. That I can hug you and kiss you and love you is a miracle. That you can love me is a miracle. We can have Findhorn community and foundation is a miracle. So I see miracles all the time, everywhere. And with those miracles, I can celebrate life. So the new story for me is to be a pilgrim. Thank you very much. Thank you. 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 I've left plenty of time because we are here. We are expected to be here until 2:15. I would like not this to be just my monologue, but I would like to answer some questions or hear some comments, your feelings, your thoughts, and so that we can have a little discussion. So if anybody would like to make any comment or ask any question, please feel free. Yes? Sorry.
Is it possible for nations to go on a pilgrimage?
Nations are on a pilgrimage. You don't have to go anywhere because you are going all the time. The earth is moving. Earth is on a pilgrimage. All the time, 24 hours. Every second we are on a move. So we are going. Gaia, the word Gaia means going. In Sanskrit, we have the same word Gaia, which means singing and going. Gaya, somebody says, so somebody has gone. We say, weh, chala gaya, gaya. So earth is on a pilgrimage. Only we are stuck somewhere in our minds, not in our body, because body is moving. We are all the time moving. This movement, this dynamic living. So nations are on a pilgrimage, but quite often they don't realize it. And therefore they get too stuck, they get fixed in certain ideology. My interest, my national interest, my security. It's like a human being, we have personal interest. Nations develop this idea of our national interest and national security, and therefore we go to war for national security and national interest. There are no national interests. There are only interests of the earth, interests of whole of humanity. If something is not in the interest of America, it cannot be in the interest of Russia. If it's not in the interest of Russia, it cannot be in the interest of America or England or Britain. And so this idea, the notion of self-interest, national interest, national security is the idea of tourism. This is why tourists will take a life insurance or a travel insurance. They have a travel insurance. Insurance is lack of that flexibility. So I would like to see that in the scheme of the universe, there are no national boundaries. When you look from the sky, look at like the cosmonauts did, and they took the picture of the planet Earth. There is no boundary there. There is no borders there. There is no America, India, China, Russia, England, Scotland. Nothing there. It's all one planet Earth. And so I would like to see all national governments be on a pilgrimage. And we are on a pilgrimage in the service of humanity, in the service of the earth. And through service to humanity and service to the earth, we have self-realization. Self-realization doesn't go by looking at your belly button or navel gazing. Self-realization is to let go of yourself and realize that you are not a separate self. We are all interbeings. You are, therefore I am. If you are not there, I cannot be here. The idea of René Descartes, the French philosopher, who said, I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, is the old story. Because that's an individualistic, separational story, dualistic story. You are, therefore, this audience makes me who I am as a speaker. This earth is, therefore I am. The mother and father and parents and ancestors were there, therefore I am. All my teachers and gurus who taught me, therefore I am. What makes Britain a nation? All the other nations make Britain nation. If there was no other nations, no other lands, Britain will not be there. So we need to see this interconnectedness, interdependence, interrelatedness. And this national boundaries and my national interest, I can bomb this or that country to protect my interest. You never do it. There are no national interests. It's the only human interest and interest of the earth. So nations, psychologically, governments, businesses, academia, universities, they all need to transform their mindset, transform their worldview. And that new worldview, new mindset, new story is that we are all interdependent, interconnected world, and therefore let's do everything which is in the interest of whole of humanity. See why my book, another book which I have written is called Soil, Soul, Society. Soil is the earth. Without soil we cannot exist. And the soul is our spirit, our inner landscape. And without that inner landscape, there is no outer landscape. And the society is the whole of humanity, the community. So if we can embrace this trinity of soil, soul, society, then all nations will be on a pilgrimage in consciousness. In reality, they are already, but they don't realize it. Okay, next question. Yes, please.
I feel very inspired by listening to you. And there's always what I call inside myself Thomasina, my doubting Thomasina.
Yeah.
And she says, what is the alternative? Like, of what's happening now in the world and the airstrikes, and how can this mindset change in governments? How can it happen? I had a bit of an image then that if everybody stopped what they were doing and became pilgrims and walked, then maybe that would make a difference. But how does the world change when there are all these terrible things happening in Syria and Iraq and what's happening now with the UK being involved?
Yes, yes. It's a big question. There are some short-term answers and there are some long-term answers. The short-term answer is that if the citizens of Britain come together, especially those who are not in favor of such violent response, say, before we bomb, wouldn't it be a good idea that all the parties involved in that area in the Middle East, be it Taliban, be it Al-Qaeda, be it ISIS, be it Assad, be it Iranians, whoever you are, Turkish or Saudi Arabia, all the countries and people of that area, before we bomb you, we want you to get together in a conference. Have a news story summit in Baghdad or in Amman or in somewhere, Jerusalem, wherever. And let us talk about our problems. Why we have this disagreement. What are our grievances? We are humans. We are intelligent. We have culture. We have a civilization. We have minds. We have hearts. We are humans. We have families. We have children. We have husbands and wives. We have mothers. We don't want to bomb. We want to talk. I would urge, and you don't need America to solve problems of Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan. You don't need Britain to solve the problems of Syria or Iraq or Iran or Afghanistan. Let them, all the people, whatever your religion, Shia, Sunni, Christians, Jews, whoever you are, sit down together. Your ultimate religion is humanity. And all the religions of Islam and Christianity and Judaism and all the other religions are just expressions to serve humanity. This is common sense. This is not something rocket science that you have to talk to them and explain to them. It's a common sense that let us sit together, and what are our grievances? How can we have different religions still sharing the same planet Earth and same humanity? We cannot get away from it. So that's the first short-term step. We need to put that kind of pressure on our governments and the governments of the world to sit together like Martin Luther King, like Mahatma Gandhi, like the Dalai Lama, like Mother Teresa. They advocated path of peace. Why can't we do that? Just any problem, bomb. Any problem, bomb. What have we achieved? What did we achieve in Libya? What did we achieve in Afghanistan? Taliban or Al-Qaeda is nowhere finished. What did we achieve in Iraq? What did we achieve anywhere? What did we achieve in Korea? What did we achieve in Vietnam? Nothing we achieved. So violence is a kind of obsolete, out of date, useless method of solving human problems. That's the first step. We need to put that pressure on our governments, and we need to do it together. The long-term solution is that we need to create a board like Scotland, who tried to have independence. I think 45% of people waking up and rising and becoming trusting and fearless and voting for a self-reliant, independent country. I think that was a great news. And even though referendum yes vote did not win, nevertheless, I think there'll be more decentralization of power, not only for Scotland, for Wales, for Northern Ireland, for Northern England, for Cornwall, for Devon, for local communities. So it was a good exercise. But in the long term, we need to go back to what perhaps used to be smaller nations, smaller communities, and more power at the grassroots level. And not so much power in London, New York, Washington, Moscow, New Delhi, Tokyo, Paris, big capital city with big money and big power and big military. We have to get away. But that requires a big movement and a big consciousness. And in order to do that, we have to start with ourselves. We cannot just say, you disarm. Are we trusting? Each and every one of us are members of this human community. And we all have to cultivate that trust. So, and you know, even though Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and all these conflict places are there, nevertheless, if you look at the whole of humanity, nearly 7 billion people upon this earth, out of 7 billion people, maybe a few thousand, 10, 20, 50, 100,000 people are engaged in wars. And actual fighting is very small numbers engaged in. But 99.9% of the humanity upon this earth are living in harmony, living in peace. Mothers are taking care of children. Wives are taking care of husbands, and husbands taking care of children. Neighbors, communities, people are looking after each other. Farmers are growing food. Gardeners are growing food in their gardens. People are making crafts, arts, painting, music, this kind of community conferences. So humanity as a whole is still 99.9% of humanity still living in a much larger extent in peace. Even in our personal lives, your 24 hours, how many hours do you spend in anger and fight with your husband or wife or your neighbors or your children or whoever? Only very small amount of time. Larger amount of time of our lives we spend taking care of each other, being compassionate and kind, being generous. So let us not forget our humanity is much more powerful than all the wars put together, all the conflicts put together. So let's embrace that, celebrate that, rejoice in that humanity and our peaceful existence. And this war is like a wound in your body. Sometimes you get a cut, or sometimes you get a little wound, or sometimes you get a little eczema or something. So this war is like an eczema. Huh? It's a war, eczema on the human body, body of the humanity, body of the earth. And so let's treat it, but without forgetting that we are at large a great humanity, and trust is 90. I mean, I could go around the world for 2.5 years without a penny. My faith and trust in humanity has gone leaps and bounds. I cannot let go of my faith in humanity and human spirit in spite of these wars. So I consider these wars are like wounds in the body. We need to heal them. We need to put nice arnica or some homeopathic medicine or something nice herbal treatment. We need to do that. And we need to rise to do it. We need to speak our mind, speak the truth to power. But without forgetting that there's a profound humanity which is still living in harmony and peace. And that's what I celebrate. Yes, there's a person there.
Have you, on your travels, met people from the corporations? Because I've watched a movie that linked the mindset of a corporation to the mindset of a psychopath. And it seems that big money and big business are now kind of controlling everything, and that actually war and violence is good for big business.
Yes.
It's like illness is good for pharma. And so it's like, what can we do to actually, I'm totally with you, but it seems sometimes the odds are so overwhelming.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's the same problem as with the big government. It's a big business and big corporations. Corporations, corp means dead body. So they are actually dead bodies. But rather than burying them, we are just letting them spread the smell. I prefer the word company rather than corporations. Company, I go to speak to business houses, and some companies invite me. And when I go there, I say, you are a very good name, you have a company, you are a company. You are a company, aren't you? They said, yes, we are a company. Say, all right, please take me to your kitchen. So why? We are not a restaurant or something. We don't have a kitchen. We are a business. We are a company. I said, you know the meaning of the word company? Compane. Com means together. Pane means bread. Sharing, baking, and breaking, and eating bread together makes the company. That's how the original name of company started. Company was people came together, they ate together, they shared bread together, they worked together, they formed a company, a companionship. Compane, companion is somebody with whom you bake bread, or break bread, or eat bread, or share food, share your meal. That is your companion. So companion and company come from the same root. So I agree with you that at the moment corporations are in a very dominant position. And corporations are almost, you can say, ruling the world. There is a wonderful book by David Corton called When Corporations Rule the World. And that is happening now. And even companies like Monsanto taking monopoly on seeds, which is a very bad news, and many, many other companies. But answer is to start new, small, local entrepreneurship. When I teach at Schumacher College, and when the Schumacher College students leave, the last days, their graduation, after their graduation, they ask me, what is your message to us? We are leaving now the college after 1 year. I say to them, I want to give you one little advice. Go out in the world, but don't seek a job. And they say, but how am I going to live? Don't seek a job, what do you mean? I said, go out and create a job. Be an eco-entrepreneur. Don't join Barclays Bank or BP or Tesco or big corporations. Because if you join, what's the point of being at Schumacher College? After being here, if you join because employment, in being an employee is not a very good state. When you are an employee, you have to follow the orders of your organization or your boss, your CEO. So where is your imagination? Where is your creativity? Where is your poetry? I want every one of us to be poets. You know, Drew, you are a great, wonderful poet, and I love your poetry. But the word poetry, word poet, comes from the word poiesis. And poiesis means to make. So anyone who can make with imagination, with head, heart, and hands, whether you are writing beautiful words and creating a poem of words, or you are creating something beautiful, poetic garden, or poetic kitchen, or poetic house. Anything can be poetic if you make it. If you are a mere consumer, you are not a poet. And we have been turned by these corporations that you talked about into mere consumers. And our poetry has gone out of our lives. And therefore, in order to become poets again, makers again, we have to change our educational system. Educational system, you are brainwashed from age 5 to 20. Primary school, secondary school, university, they brainwash you. And only thing, when my children were at primary school, already, when they were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, already career officers were coming to the primary school to tell them, what kind of job will you do? I say, you are only 10 years old, and career officers are coming into primary school. So for our educational system, the purpose of education has become merely to get a job after you have left the university or your school. I said that is not the purpose of education. That is not the purpose of life. Employment is not good. We are not looking for employment, we are looking for livelihood. There's a great deal of difference between employment and livelihood. And even that, right livelihood. The Buddha tells you 8-fold path to liberate yourself from freedom, from pain and suffering. And one of them is right livelihood. And so we need to have a new education in order to combat in long-term corporations. And we need to say to people, sometimes people say, what shall I do? I'm living in London and I'm working, and how can I practice meditation, and how can I practice gardening, and how can I be ecologist? I say, you know what you should do? Give up your job and give up London. Why you are stuck in London? Come and live in the country. You can have a land, you can have a garden. I used to live in London and I gave up. And if I could give up, others can give up. I'm sure many of you who live here in Findhorn have lived in big cities like London or other places. So I think we have to start that revolution from the grassroots level. And then this house of cards, like BP and Shell and Monsanto and Tesco and all the... Tesco is already in trouble. So I think people power has to be organized and aroused in order to combat these big corporations. Any other question? Yes.
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 I want some help from you in the audience, because I belong to something called 38 Degrees, and which is one of the movements that's campaigning governments. And I was taken aback. There was a vote. Do you want for us to address the politicians about whether UK should go in for the airstrikes? And because that's what they were going to do. And the feedback they got, more people voted for them to promote the airstrikes than to say no to the politicians. So, yeah. And I thought, what's my next step here? Because to do something on the global as well as the local. Yeah. So, I mean, I can talk about, I think the way to peace is peace, and I can have these conversations. But here's an organisation whose members voted to go for the, people I thought who were like-minded, who were going for peace. So it just happened 2 days ago. So I'm thinking, what do I do next?
These voting and so on.
Someone said.
Sorry?
Someone's just answered it, said, start my own petition, not rely on 38 Degrees.
Yeah, okay. The thing is that 38 degree or whatever, our brains, our information, our knowledge is informed by the media. And we are day after day after day fed with this idea that we are in danger. Our security in danger, our national interest in danger. And that is why people are voting the way. They don't know what the situation is. They only know what Telegraph or Daily Mail or whatever people read. They are brainwashed. So I don't think public opinion is necessarily a kind of barometer of their real feeling. So I think we need to have alternative movement. We need to build new ideas and inform people that ultimately it's non-violence and peace. But peace is not a destination. There is no such thing. I don't want you to feel that we can reach a stage one day when all problems will be solved and all world will be at peace. And even in your own life, you can say, one day I'll be such that all my anger and ego and fear and all things will be gone, and I'll be a sage. So a pilgrim is not a sage. Pilgrim is one who deals with day-to-day difficulties as they come. That's the pilgrimage. So day-to-day difficulties of war, peace, corporations, bad education, or our personal life, anger, fear, mistrust, whatever it is, every day how we deal with them. That is the pilgrim's challenge. Pilgrim is not saying that one day everything will be perfect on this world, and everybody will be sage and saintly, and nobody will have anger and fear or mistrust. That is not. We are humans. We have to embrace our humanity. And humanity comes with warts and all. We have a bit of anger in us, a bit of fear in us, but that's a small percentage. This is what I was saying. The small percentage of people in the world are engaged in war. Small percentage of time, individual humans are engaged in fear or anger or quarrel. And majority of time, we are living in trust and love and care and compassion. And that's what we need to increase, maximize your compassion and your love and kindness, and minimize your fear and anger and ego and pride. That's all we can do. It's a day-to-day exercise. It's a journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey. This is why I like the metaphor of pilgrim, because that's a journey. We are on a journey. Life is a journey, and peace is a journey. Ecology is a journey. All these sort of ideas that we have, they are all journeys. We are pilgrims, we are walking. We may never get it all right, and we never be perfect saints, but we are making a journey. Yes.
Satish, I really agree with everything you're saying, but I'm still left with a little nagging something. I know in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is the warrior, and when the warrior has to do something, he has to do what he has to do.
Yeah.
So I really want to address the position of the soldier in our world, who does liberate the concentration camp, who does rescue the person. I am really grateful for them being there. I'd like you to speak to them.
Okay. When I say pilgrim and Arjuna and warriorship of Arjuna and Krishna and the soldier liberating, you can be a peace soldier. And Mahatma Gandhi showed it, that you can be a peace soldier and liberate people from concentration camps. You can be a peace soldier and liberate a whole nation from colonialism. You can be a peace soldier like Martin Luther King. And you can liberate the whole nation from racialism, which is no better than any other calamities that humanity has faced. Because people, I was a victim of racialism, and I was thrown out of a restaurant in Southern America at a gunpoint. So I know that people were not allowed to go in the same school, and in Mahatma Gandhi, in India, untouchables, they were not allowed to take water from the same well as the Brahmins and the upper caste. And Gandhi worked there to liberate. So liberation is not a monopoly of violent soldier with a gunpoint. And to protect one, he kills the other. Mahatma Gandhi's way, Martin Luther King's way, and Pilgrim's way is that you liberate one without killing the other. You are not saying, I will liberate the oppressed, but I will kill the oppressor. That is not Gandhian non-violent idea. I will liberate oppressor from the oppression as much as oppressed from the oppression. So he said, the British are my friends and brothers and sisters. You can live in India as long as you want. I have no animosity with you. I just want to fight against colonial imperial system. That's non-violence. So soldiers are fine. That's an old story. We have millions of soldiers in every country. They are pretending to protect their country, but they are not protecting their country. What are they defending? They are defending those corporations. They are defending untouchability. They are defending poverty in their country. What are you defending, those soldiers? They are just putting bomb, pressing the button from far away in the sky on the order of their commanders and Commander-in-Chief Obama or President of America or whoever. So I think this idea of soldier, my dear friend, you have to think about it. It's an old story. We have to be new soldiers. And I don't want to call ourselves soldiers and call ourselves pilgrim, because the word soldier, warrior, they have connotation of fighting. Fighting for peace. I don't want to fight for peace. I want to work for peace. I want to walk for peace. I want to talk for peace. I want to live peace. Fighting for peace. Against whom I'm fighting? There's no enemy there. It's enemies in our head. Russia is not enemy. America is not enemy. Communists are not enemy. Islam is not enemy. Syrians, Shia, Sunni, they are not enemies. They are humans. But they are caught in this illusion that they are separate from somebody else. Shia is separate from Sunni. Catholics are separate from Protestants. Americans are separate from Russians. Indians are separate from Chinese. This idea of separation is the old story. The new story is that we are one. There is no China without India. There is no Russia without America. There is no Hindu without Muslim. These are only names. We are humans. We are members of the earth community. So liberate both. Liberate the oppressor as well as the oppressed. Liberate the concentration camps organizer as well as the concentration camp sufferer. Then it's a much stronger, bigger vision than protecting one against the other. Okay.
Hello, Satish. I am hearing from you, and I can also hear an echo inside me about devolving power from a greater centralized force, whatever that is, in terms of cities or corporations or central government, to smaller groups, and instead of looking at a hierarchical model of power, to look at one that is devolved at a grassroots level, more of a grassroots level. I have, in my lifetime, experienced being a part of a number of communities. One of them, Summerhill community in East Anglia, which was begun by A.S. Neil many years ago. All my children went there, and I was one of the parent elders there for over 20 years.
Summerhill.
Yeah. And I can remember that one of the little kids came up to me after a meeting, and we'd sat all afternoon in tribunal, tossing around a particularly, challenging subject, and all the kids were getting involved. And one little kid came up to me afterwards and said, he said, democracy is really boring. He said, it just takes forever. And interestingly, in this community, we have a lot of processes. And we have a lot of processes that seem to go on and on and on and on and on. And even when we, go into small groups, and we are a small group, we represent quite a small group in the larger society of the UK. And looking at the clan system, where there was lots of infighting in this part of the world, before there was a serial, external aggressor, i.e. England, and looking at the tribal systems in Africa. So what I'm kind of thinking in a way, and I'm trying to pass through me, is, human nature is human nature. If it's, collected into large corporate sort of energy centres of living, and even if it's in small groups of living, will humans always argue with each other and be less inclined to reach decisions? And how do we actually get through life being pilgrims alongside each other, allowing each other to live? Just some things I've been thinking about.
Very, very interesting. First of all, if somebody says it takes forever, they have idea that time is in short supply. And that idea is based in clock time. Time is in short supply. We don't have enough time for anything. And I think that is a kind of conditioning which drives us to do something quickly so that I can do the next thing. I would like to suggest that for a pilgrim, you have to transcend or liberate yourself from this clock time. And when God made time, he or she or them made plenty of it. There is no shortage of time. Time is not an enemy. Time is not running out. Time is coming. Time is coming. Tomorrow is there. So it takes forever is not something that I feel that we have to take it. We have to say that whatever takes time, it takes time. It takes time to cook. You can say it takes forever to cook meal, therefore I'll go to Marks and Spencer and get ready-made sandwiches because I haven't got time to, because I have to watch television, or I have to address my emails, or I have to do something else. Take time to cook. Take time to discuss. The mutual affairs have to be talked about. But at the same time, I would not say that that kind of laissez-faire time should be imposed, whether it's a Summerhill or somewhere else, not imposed. If children or some members of a community do not want to participate in a particular discussion and say, just let me know what you have come to agree and I will do it. I surrender my kind of ego or separation, and I'll go along. That's okay. I mean, there's a place for discipline. There's a place for limit. There's a place for restraint. A river is free to flow only within the restraint of two banks. If there are no two banks, river is not flowing freely, it is causing flood. And that flood will cause havoc to people and nature. Therefore, in nature, there's always a limit between the two banks, but within two banks, you can meander. The river doesn't go straight from the mountain to the sea. It meanders and goes that way and goes that way, and meandering reaches the ocean. So a little bit of discussion, a little bit of exploration, a little bit of time spending. River doesn't say, I'm in a hurry to reach the sea. I must go to sea quickly. I don't want to meander. These hills are getting in the way. The river doesn't say that. So we also need to learn from nature. Nature is our teacher. Nature is our mentor. How nature works. In nature, there is no central government. There's nature, there's no prime minister. There's no CEO. There's no big corporation. And apart from one human species, all the species of this world, some like 800 million species of this world, are fed and watered and sheltered and looked after without Monsanto, without Obama, without David Cameron, without George Osborne, Chancellor. Who is looking after them? How is it organized? Self-organized system. So we need to develop something from nature, learn from nature as our teacher, our master, and say, Earth is a self-organizing, self-managing system. Why can't we have Findhorn self-organizing, self-managing system? Why can't we have Summerhill self-organizing, self-managing? Why can't we have Devon, Cornwall, Scotland, wherever you are, be self-organizing, self-managing. But within that, you allow some time and space for the process, for the river to meander through and reach the sea. And there is no rush. There is no rush of time. When you are in the ocean, then what do? You have to rise again in the steam and go into the clouds and go back to the mountains and become a spring and make so it's a life continues. So what is the hurry? Even if you get to the sea, there's no rest there. You have to go back into the clouds. So why are you rushing? When God made time, He made or she made plenty of it. Enjoy it. Okay, thank you.
One little thing. To me, what is such a key feature about the community is what Eileen Caddy showed us.
Yeah.
And she wasn't just listening to her mind, she was listening to her inner voice.
Yeah.
And you fully agree with that?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Inner voice. Yeah. Inner voice is the self-organizing system. So inner voice, I always believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen to your inner voice. And this is why I say, if you feel that you are wasting too much time, your inner voice says you to go and walk in the woods or go and cook or go and write your emails. Never mind. Inner voice.
It's remarkable how this place started. Because Eileen heard the voice and Peter carried out what she was shown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that to me is an incredibly important model.
Yes.
Exactly. End of my nonsense.
Thank you. Is there another question there? Yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
I think it's very easy for us here to point our fingers at big governments and wars and corporations. But how shall a community like Findhorn ensure that it itself does not become a corporation?
Very good question. Only way you can stop being a corporation is to be on your guard and remember that Findhorn was not created to make money. Findhorn was not created to have management. Findhorn was not created to have budget and accounts and accountants. The inner voice was not saying, go to an accountant. Where is your budget? All those are means to an end. And I'm not against anything. There can be money is a means to an end. But what is the end? What is the purpose? What is the intention behind communities like Findhorn? What is intention and motivation? Not to seek success, financial success, or name, or fame, or prestige, but to seek fulfillment. Fulfillment of its members, fulfillment of the local community, fulfillment of the need of the land. That is the intention behind the history and formation and the inner voice that you talked about, Eileen and Peter implemented. That was the intention. So only way you can stop Findhorn becoming a corporation is to never forget the true and original intention. And if you stay honest and true to that intention, then all else will be fine. Add it to it. Doesn't matter. Money comes and goes, and you will not try not to be too big. Try to remain small is beautiful. Add Eileen's vision and dreams and inner voice to Schumacher's wisdom of keep it small. Because self-organizing, self-maintaining systems are always small. Our body is small body, and it manages itself. It heals itself. Even when I get a bit of wound, it heals. There's a scab comes within 2-3 days. You can put a bit of turmeric or something to help it. But the self-healing quality, because it's a small body, and many people, they can cooperate in their self-organizing bodies. So remain small. Keep Findhorn small. Small is beautiful. And if you can, help another Findhorn to grow somewhere. We want many Findhorns rather than one big Findhorn. It's good to have many human beings than one big human being. Huh? So that's the kind of way that you can stop Findhorn becoming a corporation. Maybe just a last question.
This is just an addition, because part of Eileen's guidance was that Findhorn will grow.
Yeah.
So I assume that's part of our purpose, to deal with the growth as well.
Grow in, not in one place, but grow in other places. That's one way. The other is grow in quality rather than in quantity. You are growing, if you grow in compassion, if you grow in love, you grow in integrity, you grow in all those qualities, that's a great growth. Growth is not just in numbers. I mean, economic growth is economic growth, but there is a quality, it's a quantitative growth. So Eileen would never, as for I met her, I read her books, and I met her several times, because I was here 30 years ago, many times. She was very much in the spirit of quality, qualitative growth, not quantitative growth, and especially not quantitative growth at the expense of qualitative growth. I think Eileen will be very unhappy if you grow big and big like corporations and forgot your meditation. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, 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 thank you.
Thank you very much. Very inspiring. Thank you. So now is the question, I don't know, Drew would be willing to recite another poem. Would you be up to listening? Yes. So, and let's do that in the spirit of completion of this of this afternoon and this time together.
Thank you. This poem is called Hieroglyphic Stairway. This poem is called Hieroglyphic Stairway. It's 3:23 in the morning, and I'm awake because my great-great-grandchildren won't let me sleep. My great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the planet was plundered? What did you do when the earth was unraveling? Surely you did something when the seasons started failing, as the mammals, reptiles, birds were all dying. Did you fill the streets with protest when democracy was stolen? What did you do once you knew? I'm riding home on the Colma train. I've got the voice of the Milky Way in my dreams. I have teams of scientists feeding me data daily and pleading I immediately turn it into poetry. I want just this consciousness reached by people in range of secret frequencies contained in my speech. I am the desirous earth, equidistant to the underworld and the flesh of the stars. I am everything already lost. The moment the universe turns transparent and all the light shoots through the cosmos, I use words to instigate silence. I'm a hieroglyphic stairway in a buried Mayan city, suddenly exposed by a hurricane, a satellite circling Earth, finding dinosaur bones in the Gobi Desert. I am telescopes that see back in time. I'm the precession of the equinoxes, the magnetism of the spiraling sea. I'm riding home on the Colma train with the voice of the Milky Way in my dreams. I am myths where violets blossom from blood like dying and rising gods. I'm the boundary of time, soul encountering soul and tongues of fire. It's 3:23 in the morning, and I can't sleep because my great-great-grandchildren ask me in dreams, what did you do while the earth was unraveling? I want just this consciousness reached by people in range of secret frequencies contained in my speech. Thank you.
So maybe before you leave, just take a moment to let it settle. Not to, so we have all the time there is, just to let it settle and let the words resonate of the poems, of the song, of Satish, and whatever touched you. Take it with you consciously and as a gift and as seeds. Thank you. Blessings on your day.